Hello everybody and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about a video game that I've so recently played called Tales of Vesperia. Now, if you haven't already known, I'm a pretty big fan of the Tales of series. The Tales of series is actually the first JRPG series I have played. So yeah, it has done a pretty big impact on my life. And yeah, Tales of Symphonia was the first Tales of game I had played, and I loved it so much. But I actually haven't played Tales of Vesperia until the definitive edition came out, because I didn't have an Xbox, and I didn't want to buy an Xbox just to play one RPG. So when the definitive edition came out, I was so excited because I thought I'd never be able to play it. And I'm very happy that Namco decided to remake it for us, because I'm pretty sure this is the first Tales of remake that we have had, which is amazing. And I have beaten Tales of Vesperia around 2 or so months ago, or I don't freaking know. Point being is that I have beaten it recently, and I decided to make a video recording my thoughts on it, because I have had numerous thoughts regarding the game, and I feel like I would want to share them with you guys. Alright, first thing that we're going to be talking about is the story. Now, the story is a big reason why JRPGs are popular today. So when reviewing a JRPG, the story plays a major part in it. The story in Tales of Vesperia is actually widely considered to be the weakest aspect of the game. And I can understand that, for the first 20 or so hours at least. Because in the first 20 hours of the game, there isn't really much interesting to the story, for the first 20 hours of the game. In my opinion, I feel like that the build up to the climax is really drawn out and kind of bland, because the goals at the start of the game are minor. And I do know that usually in a JRPG, when you're starting off in the game, the goals aren't necessarily supposed to be so high, like saving the world. But I feel like that the story in Tales of Vesperia was sort of trying to find an excuse to force the characters into adventure, because your side characters that goes along with you in your party didn't really have a big enough reason to join, if that makes sense. They kind of just wanted to join, just for the sake of joining, and don't really have a reason for doing anything until later in the game. And I'm not saying that this complaint is a really bad flaw, but it does contribute as to why the story in the beginning feels forced, and it doesn't really come off that naturally. There isn't really much uniqueness regarding the story. It does get interesting in around the last 40 hours of the game, but there isn't really much to the story that necessarily keeps its identity. I don't really have problems with the narrative though. It's just weak for an RPG. Alright, next aspect of the game that we're going to be moving on to is the battle system. Yes. What is surprising is that I actually enjoyed the battle system a lot more than the story. The battle system in Tales of Vesperia is probably the best type of battle system I've ever played in an RPG. The battle system at first starts off a little simple and kind of boring and repetitive, and there isn't too much variety starting off. But the more and more you progress through the game, the more it opens up, and the variety gets wider and wider. And I would say that I did have a lot of fun with the battle system once I was around halfway through the game. For an example, an ideal combo would be 3 attacks, altered, arcane art, and then a mystic art. Another thing that I really like about the combat is the fact that you get to switch between characters throughout the game. Now, the Tales of series is known for their combat having around 8 characters in your party, and you don't have to play as the main character the entire time. You can play as any character whenever you want, unless you're in a very specific boss battle where it forces you to play as a character. But other than that, you can play as any character you want, and each and every character has their own unique style of playing. I personally usually played as Yuri because I was most comfortable with him, But there were some times where I did try out Rita for a bit, and also Patty, because they were also very fun to use as. And I actually do know some people who have mained characters other than Yuri and actually find those other characters funner to play as. So they're definitely worth your time. But yeah, the combat in this game is also very smooth, runs at 60 FPS, and you can also move in a 360 view, which is amazing, as it creates a more open feel to the game. If I had to choose a certain combat style that I would like best for the Tales of series, I would definitely choose Tales of Vesperia. Alright, next we are moving on to the characters, which I consider to be the strongest point for the game. All of the main characters have a colorful range of personalities, and they're all extremely likable. Each and every character has their own set of flaws and personal goals, and they all develop and learn something throughout the game. If I could, I'd give a thorough analysis of each and every character in the party, but I can't make this video long, so I'll save it for another time. Anyway, I do want to put my brief opinion for each character though. First off, we have Flynn Rider. Just kidding. His name is Flynn Shifo. But anyway, Flynn Shifo is your childhood friend, but you don't really adventure with him for too much of the game because Yuri's and Flynn's beliefs contradict each other. And even though his beliefs do contradict the main party's goals, Flynn's beliefs are understandable, and to be honest, I may have sided with him if I was in that situation. Next up, we have old Raven. Now, Raven is viewed to be the pervert of the party. But what's very interesting about Raven is that his pervertedness isn't his most acknowledged trait. He is very mysterious and has the most interesting backstory out of everyone. Since he is so much older than everyone, he does use his age for an excuse to not do a lot of things a lot, because he can be pretty lazy. But once you really do start looking into his heart, you will see that he is a very kind old man and will do anything to protect his friends. Next up, we have Judith. Now, Judith is a very calm, collected, and reserved young girl. She can be difficult to understand at times, but she has helped everyone a lot. Because if we didn't have Baul, then we wouldn't really be able to get anywhere, would we? Next up, we have Patty, who is the new additional character. I mean, you could call her DLC, but honestly, she does fit really well into the party. My first impression of Patty was that she was a little girl dressed up as a pirate and wanted to play pirate. But towards the end of the game, my thoughts on her were, wow, she really is a pirate. Overall, I think she's a very cute character, and I really do admire that she never gives up on her goals and dreams. Next up, we have Carol, who I believe to probably be the most developed character in the party. When you first see him, you kind of just see him as a little boy who wants to be a great adventurer and says that he's not scared of anything, but once he really does face danger, he runs away right away. You see him as an immature kid, but man does he mature so much throughout the game. And I think Yuri really was the one who made Carol start questioning himself and his ideals, up to the point where he starts becoming one of the most mentally strong people in the game. Next up, we have Rita Mordio, who I consider to be the tsundere of the game. She does start off very cold and harsh at first, but once you really get close to her, you will see that she is a very sweet person at heart. Her sarcastic and dry humor is also very fun to watch. Next up, we have Lady Estelise, also known as Estelle, and she is the princess of the party. Once you meet Estelle, you will find out that she has never been outside the castle, so she has no experience with the outside world. And not only that, but she has never really had any friends either, so seeing her experience friendships for the first time is really cool to see.
Was that not right?
No, it's fine.
Estelle can be very curious of her surroundings, and is always up for learning new things. She can be very naive and innocent, but as her character grows, she becomes more determined, and is able to find her own meaning of life along the way. She does become a damsel in distress for a hot minute, but it really is only a hot minute, and it doesn't really last too long, so it's no big deal. Estelle is awesome. Okay, and now we have Repeat, who is Yuri's dog companion. He doesn't really have too much character development, but he does stay by Yuri's side all the time, and it's very cute to see. And now finally we have the main character, also known as the best main character in all of video games, Yuri Lowell. Yes. Man, this guy's awesome. If you hate Yuri Lowell, then I'm sorry, but you have to unsubscribe because you're wrong. I'm just saying. I will come out and say that the first time I saw Yuri, I thought he was a girl. So when I heard his voice, I was very caught off guard. But yeah, his voice actor though did a really good job in portraying his character and his personality. Yuri's personality is very snarky, and he acts like an older brother in front of his teammates. He is also a very independent person. He prefers to go about his ways instead of following the rules. And when he knows the rules are wrong, he isn't afraid to point out the mistakes. So basically, in conclusion, all the characters are amazing, except the side ones. The side ones don't really have much depth, and the villains also kinda suck, and they don't really have too much of a motive to go off of. But anyway, that's enough for my brief character opinion thing. I feel like I've gone long enough, so now I will move on to some other various things I want to comment about the game. Another awesome thing about Tales of Vesperia is how much side quests there are. There is so much to do in this game, let alone the main story. Even I tried to do as much as I possibly could, and I feel like I haven't even touched the surface to all the side quests there is to offer. But overall, I found the side quests very enjoyable. Also, the graphics in Tales of Vesperia are top notch, and I actually consider those graphics to be better than even recent Tales games. I mean, obviously couldn't near top off the Tales of Arise that's coming soon, but the graphics are amazing for its time. So, yeah, for my conclusion of Tales of Vesperia, basically, everything about the game is amazing, except the main story is kind of eh. If I had to give a rating for this game, I'd rate it an 11 out of 10. Please play it if you haven't already. And you can get it on any console you want, even PC, even Xbox. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Please play Tales of Vesperia. It's amazing. And I promise it is worth it. And that is it for my review. I hope you like it. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and good night.